was held in downtown Riga on the evening of November 18, Independence Day. Hundreds of people came to the monument of Karlis Ulmanis, who ruled Latvia single-handedly in the 1930s, before the Soviets arrived. Many Latvians are still nostalgic about that time.
Ulmanis said Latvia should be for Latvians. Latvians should live in Latvia.
A torchlit procession was held in the center of Riga following the rally, with several hundred people from the Latvian capital taking part. Some tourists who were out for an evening walk in Old Riga looked on with interest and perplexity. The uniforms of those who headed the column were similar to what members of neo-Nazi organizations wore.
If we fail to uproot this terrible thing, fascism, it'll embrace these youngsters who imagine they carry the torch that heroes used to hold in their hands. Because former legionnaires are heroes. They are paid higher pensions. A huge memorial has been built in their honor, while the people who defeated Nazism are poor, destitute, haunted people.
Currently, there are around 16,000 Soviet Army veterans still living in Latvia. Former paratrooper Yevgeny Chigvintsev covers his medals and orders while on his way to the monument to the fallen Soviet soldiers. His cap is in his bag. He puts it on as he gets close to the monument. If the police notice a veteran in a Soviet Army uniform, they have to pay a fine equivalent to around $50 US as required by law.
The attitude to us is just abominable. There was even a case where a uniformed veteran riding on a bus on Victory Day had to leave because the driver stopped the bus and said he wouldn't budge unless the man stepped off.
The bus driver, however, has much more radical fellow countrymen. In 1998, Riga's monument to the Soviet soldiers was blown up, with several of the perpetrators dying during the act. But the organizer, Igor Shishkin, survived. After several years in prison, he is free again, walking with his son in the city center. And again, he discusses the monument.
This so-called monument, as you say, for me, it's the Latvian nation's pillory. Half of it should simply be pulled down to symbolize the occupation is no longer there.
Yet, another event took place in Latvia in 1998, the same year that Shishkin blew up the monument. Criminal proceedings were launched against a former Soviet partisan, Vasily Kononov.
This is the Order of Lenin. I was decorated for having blown up 16 German trains when I was a partisan.
Latvia declared him an enemy, and he had to spend 2 years behind bars. This happened because in 1943, he took part in the execution of several people who voluntarily helped the Germans.
If we'd failed to punish those traitors, think of the number of people they'd have betrayed to the Germans or killed. Think of the number of lives we saved with the help of that operation. But instead of saying thank you, they dragged me to prison.
Eventually, the veteran took the issue to the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. In the summer of 2008, the court found Kononov not guilty and obligated Latvia to pay him 30,000 euros as moral compensation.
Many like the fact that I joined this fight. At the very beginning, when I applied to the Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg, there were many who awaited this ruling more eagerly than I. It's even on a world scale that people have risen to my defense. They saw the gist of the matter with every fiber of their heart, what the truth was, and they saw the truth.
In present-day Latvia, it's hard to understand who was right and who was wrong during the Second World War, particularly from school textbooks. The way they interpret the Latvian involvement in the war makes many students ask certain legitimate questions. On top of this, Russian schools are keeping up their 3-year-old covert opposition to school reforms, which state senior students should study up to 60% of disciplines in Latvian.
When a person is deprived of their native language, they can no longer think, they can no longer give thought to who they are or why they live in this world. They are deprived of their past and of their future. They become a puppet, which can be easily manipulated.
There are 3 more children aside from Sergei in the Cairo family. In 2003, Sergei's parents came out against the school reform as they feared for their children's future education. The children had to be transferred to a private school, where even today, teachers let one study all disciplines in one's native language.
Studying exact sciences in a language other than your own doesn't mean studying a language as such, nor studying a science as such. Okay, give us more Latvian lessons, make the instruction better. Children aren't against it after all. Children know Latvian.
In the last few years, Sergei, like his peers, prefers non-violent resistant methods. Though using the textbooks recommended by the Education Ministry, they double-check all the information they offer on the internet or through other sources. In particular, this refers to history textbooks.
I read a textbook as if it was fiction. I have the same approach to history exams and classes. I study history only in order to pass exams. I never accept anything they teach us at school as my own point of view.
During the Soviet period, school children were brought up on newsreels of this kind, which showed Latvia's socialist achievements. There were several major factories that exported their output to the West. In terms of living standards, Latvia was far ahead of the regions in central Russia. Many current MPs and members of government began their ascent to political power back in the Soviet period.
Almost half of the Latvian parliament were communists. Earlier, one of the most rabid nationalists in the country was shouting at every parade, "Hooray to the Communist Party." Today, he claims that Russians are the enemy. People like this are quite numerous, and worse, they shape local policy.